When you usually think of a gaming franchise where you usually have to say something along the lines of it's not a gaming franchise for everybody, some, and in fact a lot of gaming franchises usually in the life simulation genre come to mind, but the one that I think of the most would probably have to be the Harvest Moon series. A game in which you farm and take care of animals, start a family, may not seem like the most exciting game, but once you actually dive into it, you'll learn that you're actually getting into something very addictive, and you might want to make sure you have a few more hours to spend in the day if you figure you're going to get hooked on a game like this. Harvest Moon: A New Beginning is the newest installment in the Harvest Moon franchise, besides the one that is in Japan and not yet been released to the American states, following my knowledge of the matter. But in Harvest Moon: A New Beginning, does this give us something to look forward to if Connect to a New World ever does come to the States? Well, I do have to admit that this Harvest Moon game does feel like a very basic installment in the series with a few big twists that make this game a lot of fun. Of course, the whole Harvest Moon series, farming, taking care of animals, it's all still there, but there's usually a main big twist in every Harvest Moon game. And in this game, you're basically the architect of your entire town. There's no blacksmith anymore. Well, there technically is, but she really doesn't do anything. Now you're the person in charge of building pretty much everything. The villagers' houses, everything in town from bushes to street lamps, the barns on your town, the coops on your town, the greenhouses, the fish traps, mausoleums, just everything in between. You're in charge of building it by getting blueprints at a blueprint shop and building it within your town. The premise is pretty familiar when it comes to a Harvest Moon game. You come to a town and it's struggling, but this town is struggling like none you have ever seen before, and I guarantee that. When you move to this Harvest Moon town, including yourself, there are only 4 people in the town. Later in the game, you will find a date when the Blueprint Lady and her son will move into town, and that's when the game can really start progressing, but until then, the game has a really slow start. In fact, it's probably one of the, if not the worst slow start in any Harvest Moon game, and if you have played a Harvest Moon game before, that is saying a lot, but unfortunately it is true. But once you get past that mark when you can actually start building things, the game does rapidly get a lot more fun, more and more often. And the thing I really like about this mechanic is it gives you so much freedom. And probably my favorite thing is you basically get to decide what villagers move into your town. A lot of Harvest Moon games before this, you usually, if it was your first time playing a Harvest Moon game, you didn't know how many villagers actually came into the town. So oftentimes there would be a struggle in waiting and keeping sense of mind in which villagers still needed to come to your town in case you wanted to maybe save up for marriage in case somebody came to your town later on. And usually you need something like a guide to check something like that up. But in this game, you know how many people come to your town, and you know what needs to be built next, and what is going to be built next, because you are building everything, and the idea itself is really interesting. And along with that main idea, it still does feel like a Harvest Moon game. The new whole foraging bug system from Tale of Two Towns is still in here. And while the fishing and mining mechanics have been nerfed from previous Harvest Moon games, and they're not as fun to do, they're still in there, and they can have their own addictive rights. And of course, farming and taking care of animals is still a lot of fun, and getting to know all of the villagers is also a treat. Every villager is interesting and entertaining in their own right, and I have to say that the dating game, which is probably one of the most important parts of any Harvest Moon game, works beautifully. You get to go on dates with the person you want to marry by giving them a ring, by making them a couple before you actually get married, which is great because you want to experience a bit more with the person you want to marry in other Harvest Moon games, and in this one you actually can by becoming a couple before becoming a married couple. There are a few complaints I have with this game. Like I said, the inevitable slow start is pretty annoying, and I am not a huge fan of the music in this game. I think it's a bit too cheesy and upbeat when the music should feel a bit more relaxed and lighthearted, but that might just be me personally. I do find the big crops kind of weird. I don't know why they're so big in this game, but that might just be another personal beef. There are no rival couples in this game, which is kind of weird. I wish and I hope that they bring that back pretty soon. But besides all of those basic problems and the fact that they implement this sort of music sheet thing along in the game as well, which really doesn't do much except open up different pathways you can take in the forest, which are basically shortcuts, and it's pretty much useless. And considering the Harvest Goddess really doesn't do much in this game, which is kind of disappointing, that's really all I have to say about this game that's truly bad. This game, all in all, is pretty good. In fact, I'd say it's one of the best in the Harvest Moon series. It's not the most simplistic of the Harvest Moon series at times, I have to say, because the growing crop mechanics can get a bit hectic and a bit too much at times in this game. So if it's your first time playing a Harvest Moon game, this might not be the one for you, especially considering the fact that a brand new and very important thing was introduced, in which you are basically building everything in this game, in which in other Harvest Moon games you didn't have to do that. So if you are planning on getting in the Harvest Moon series, I suggest maybe starting out with another Harvest Moon game, maybe Magical Melody or Tree Tranquility. This might not be the one to get into, but if you are a Harvest Moon fan, then I suggest that you play this game. It's one of the best Harvest Moon games to date, and it might be the best portable Harvest Moon game next to Friends of Mineral Town. I give this game an 8 out of 10, and it's something that all Harvest Moon fans across the globe will definitely enjoy.